have big Mexican tortas. You can have whatever you want, baby.
No, I like that.
There's no excuse
All right. Welcome to the Tuesday Night Alumni Speaker. My name's Liz, and I'm an alcoholic. Please join me in the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. All right. Who is it their first time coming to our meeting? Welcome, welcome. You've been here before. Welcome to the back. We do this every Tuesday night. If you can't make it to the meeting because you're an RBH or you just stopped by, you residentials, you guys have no choice. You're stuck with me. Consider it a blessing that you never wanted. But we do it here every Tuesday night from 6:30 to 8. And if you're not here, you can live stream, which is what we're doing tonight, on our website. Okay, let's go around the room. Did we do our serenity prayer? Yep. Oh, God. It's Friday. I'm Liz. Did I say I was an alcoholic? Okay, so I'm battling with ethics. No, I do have my ethics exam this week, which is why I have no brain. So I do apologize and I digress. So let's us get to know you. Nancy, start off with introductions. Nancy.
My name is Jasmine and I'm an addict.
Jasmine. Angel. Ooh, both. Double winner. Danny. Marcus. Josh.
Jesse, I'm an addict.
Jesse.
Brandon, alcoholic.
Brandon. Ruben. Aldo. Randy. Felipe. Rick. I'm sorry, what was your name? Okay, I'll get that. Louis. Chris. Oscar. Andrew. Johnny. We can help you, my friend. Please don't make us. Okay, Sherilyn. It's a 12-step alumni meeting. Roxy. Walter to the back. Oops, hang on. Don't think you're getting out of it. Walter. Now you go, Maria. Maria. Michael. Mike. Lydell.
George Addict.
George.
Rudy Addict.
Rudy. And I'm Liz. I'm still an alcoholic. All right. Let's give ourselves a round of applause. All right. So we are doing AA tonight. So let me read the AA preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of people who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There's no dues or fees for AA membership. We're self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. We kindly ask for your cooperation in making this a good experience for all who wish to hear the message. Please respect the speakers and the readers during the meeting, and feel free to help yourself to coffee, water, and snacks. We've asked Glenn to come on up and read a portion of chapter 3. Come on, Glenn.
Hi everybody, I'm Glenn and I'm an alcohol addict. Let me look this up. Okay, chapter 3, more about alcoholism. Most of us have been unwilling to admit we were real alcoholics. No person likes to think he is bodily and mentally different from his fellows. Therefore, it is not surprising that our drinking careers have been characterized by countless vain attempts to prove we could drink like other people. The idea that somehow, someday, he will control and enjoy his drinking is the great obsession of every abnormal drinker. The persistence of this illusion is astonishing. Many pursue it into the gates of insanity or death. We learned that we had to fully concede to our innermost selves that we were alcoholics. This is the first step in recovery. The delusion that we were like other people, or presently may be, has to be smashed. That was a weak smash. That's okay. We alcoholics are men and women who have lost the ability to control our drinking. We know that no real alcoholic ever recovers control. All of us felt that at times we were regaining control, but such intervals, usually brief, were inevitably followed by still less control, which led in time to pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. We are convinced to a man that alcoholics of our type are in the grip of a progressive illness. Over any considerable period, we get worse, never better. We are like men who have lost their legs. They never grow new ones. Neither does there appear to be any kind of treatment which will make alcoholics of our kind like other men. We have tried every imaginable remedy. In some instances, there has been brief recovery, followed always by a still worse relapse. Physicians who are familiar with alcoholism agree there is no such thing as making a normal drinker out of an alcoholic. Science may one day accomplish this, but it has not done so yet. Despite all we can say, many who are real alcoholics are not going to believe that they are in that class. By every form of self-deception and experimentation, they will try to prove themselves exceptions to the rule, therefore non-alcoholic. If anyone who is showing inability to control his drinking can do the right about face and drink like a gentleman, our hats are off to him. Heaven knows we have tried hard enough and long enough to drink like other people. Here are some of the methods we have tried. Drinking beer only, limiting the number of drinks, never drinking alone, never drinking in the morning, drinking only at home, never having it in the house, never drinking during business hours, drinking only at parties, switching from scotch to brandy, drinking only natural wines, agreeing to resign if ever drunk on the job, taking a trip, not taking a trip, trip. Swearing off forever, with and without a solemn oath, taking more physical exercise, reading inspirational books, going to health farms and sanitariums. Who says sanitariums anymore? Accepting voluntary commitment to asylums. We could increase the list ad infinitum.
All right, Jante, come on up and read a portion of chapter 5, please.
I'm John Tay. I'm an alcoholic. I'm an addict. How it works. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely get themselves to this simple program. Usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. They are such unfortunates. They are not at fault. They seem to have been born that way. They are naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. Their chances are less than average. These are those, too, who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders, but many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest. Our stories disclose in a general way what we used to be like, what happened, and what we are like now. If you have decided you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you are ready to take certain steps. At some of these, we balked. Thought we could find an easier, softer way, but we could not. With all the earnestness at our command, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. Some of us have tried to hold on to our old ideas, and the result was nil until we let go absolutely. Remember that we deal with alcohol, cunning, baffling, powerful. Without help, it's too much for us. But there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. Half measures have availed us nothing. We stood at the turning point. We asked his protection and care with complete abandon. Here are the steps we took, which are suggested as a program of recovery. Number one, we admitted we were powerless over our alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. Two, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Hey, rewind. All right. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continued to take a personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Many of us have exclaimed, "What in order? I can't go through with it." Do not be discouraged. No one among us has been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. We are not saints. The point is that we are willing to grow along spiritual lines. The principles we have set down are guides to progress. We claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. Our description of the alcoholic, the chapter of the agnostic, and our personal adventure before and after make clear 3 pertinent ideas. Number 1, that we are alcoholic and could not manage our own lives. 2, the probability no human power could ever relive alcoholism. 3, that God could and would if he were sought.
Thanks, John K. Don't forget, it's a learning meeting. You just wanted to encore for the rest of the steps, huh? All right? Not a problem. All right. While we observe the 7th tradition, which states every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting and declining all outside contributions, Walter will be passing the baskets. If you need your sign-in sheet, please throw your sign-in sheet inside. Walter's moving now. I don't see him. And while he's doing that, David, come on up and read the 12 traditions, please. You can leave it there. Go for it. Thank you.
My name is David. I'm an alcoholic. David. Thank you, guys. The 12 traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous. Number 1, our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends upon AA unity. 2, for our group purpose, there is but one ultimate authority, a loving God, as he may express himself in our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants. They do not govern. Number 3, the only requirement for AA membership is a desire to stop drinking. Number 4, each group should be autonomous except in matters affecting other groups or AA as a whole. Number 5, each group has but one primary purpose, to carry its message to the alcoholic who still suffers. Number 6, an AA group ought never endorse, finance, or lend the AA name to any related facility or outside enterprise, lest problems of money, property, and prestige divert us from our primary purpose. Number 7, every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. Number 8, Alcoholics Anonymous should remain forever non-professional, but our service centers may employ special workers. Number 9, AA as such ought never be organized, but we may create service boards or committees directly responsible to those they serve. Number 10, Alcoholics Anonymous has no opinion on outside issues. Hence, the AA name ought never be drawn into public controversy. Number 11, our public relation policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and films. Number 12, anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all our traditions, ever reminding us to place principles before principalities. Thank you.
All right, thanks, David. Okay, just in case you forgot, the format for this meeting is we'll have our 10-minute speaker, then we'll take a 10-minute break, and then we'll have our main speaker, then we'll celebrate with some milestones, and then if we have time, we'll open the floor for sharing. So it is my privilege to invite Jeremy up to the mic. Come on up, Jeremy.
Okay, all right. Thanks for asking me to speak tonight. It's a privilege. So I came into Fred Brown during the summertime. I came here in July and I left in November. I came in. I'm a true alcoholic. That word kind of always sounds funny because, you know, if you're an alcoholic, you're a true alcoholic. But I'm a pretty bad one. I'll put it that way. You know. So I came into Fred Brown in July. And I came in, it's kind of funny because I came in really not for my alcoholism, but for my anger at the push of my girlfriend at the time, you know. So she told me I needed a 90-day program because of my anger, because I turned into a drunk that I really had never been. Like I got very angry at the end there and was breaking things and just being a real jerk, and I'm usually not like that. I'm usually a happy drunk, but I didn't like the person I was becoming, and certainly no one else did either, you know. So I came into Fred Brown, you know, not really for my alcoholism. She said, I don't really care if you stop drinking. You just got to get your anger under control, you know. So, but this being said, my girlfriend, who I was with for 4.5 years, she's a total drunk too. She drinks like me, which is like around the clock. We would both sleep with our own bottle of vodka by the bedside, so there's no problem there. Like I didn't have to mess with hers, she didn't mess with ours. We each had our own. So just to give you a picture of what was going on there. So we were both really, I'll put it this way, there was a lot of love there, but there's a lot of dysfunction, a lot of toxicity, as you can imagine, with two alcoholics who drink like we do. So along with the love, there's a lot of fights and arguments and me getting thrown out and you know, bouts of homelessness, even though I lived with her for 4.5 years and she had a nice house up here in Palos Verdes. But I originally met her when we were homeless. So, you know, that's kind of a red flag from the beginning maybe, but you know, at that time, my pool of women had shrunk to other homeless people, you know, so there's really, you know, it was slim pickings. But anyway, I loved her very much. To me, she was beautiful, you know, and she must have loved me too, because I wasn't much anyone that would date me, you got a problem. So anyway, I came into Fred Brown and I got really into the program, but there were some big problems when you come in not doing this for yourself, and that was a big problem for me. So I really wasn't in here for myself. I was in here to appease her, to work on my anger, even though I was a raging alcoholic. You know, so I ran a good program in Fred Brown, but that's about all I did. You know, I missed a couple key things. One was honesty. It's kind of important to the program, you know. That went over my head because I wasn't honest. I was honest with myself, but about 30 days into the program, I knew I was going to drink. That's why I never took my 6-month chip. I never took my 9-month chip, even though I was there for 100 days. I got an extension on my work. But I was really just waiting for that phone call of her to tell me, hey, you could come home. And if that would have been at week 2, I would have been out at week 2. It just happened to be day 100. And I packed my bags, and I was gone as soon as I got that phone call. And I was drinking that night. You know, and I had some very good friends that I met in the program, and I wasn't honest with them because I just didn't want to hear it. You know, because these were people that loved and cared about me, and they tried to with some common sense, try to talk me out of it, of course, and I didn't want any of that. I wanted to just run my program, self-will, and I didn't want to be honest because it wasn't that I knew these people. There weren't people that cared about it. I just didn't want to hear it. I just didn't want the roadblocks. So it's better for me just to lie, and carry on. So that's what I did. And so at day 100, I left Fred Brown. I hadn't graduated. I was supposed to graduate on like a Friday, and I said, I'm gone, And so I packed my stuff. They dropped me off. I hugged my girlfriend, went and got a bottle, and I was drinking, and that carried on until April, about 5 months. And at the time, my girlfriend had a restraining order against me, which I violated twice. Plus, I picked up another charge for being drunk and disorderly. So from November to April, I picked up 3 charges, two of them being felonies for the violating the restraining order. She kicked me out several other times. The police were showing up. It was just back to the same chaos. So when I was picturing, oh man, it's gonna be fantastic. We're gonna be more in love with than ever. And I spent half the time in jail. And so that kind of backfired on me. But and then what happened was she started getting really sick. And I was very sick too. And I have a lot of regret over not being man enough, guilt, shame, resentment towards myself, because there were signs of her health greatly declining, but selfishly, I wanted to continue my drinking. I wanted my drinking buddy there, so that unfortunately took precedent over the love I had for her. And I loved her very much. But alcohol in my life comes first. And if I said otherwise, I'd be a liar, so I'm trying to be honest today. So people ask me, what's the most important thing in your life? Oh, my kids, of course, but I've put alcohol ahead of my kids, my marriages, my girlfriend, myself, certainly. Anything, alcohol came first in my life. Having a home, having a roof over my head, being locked up, whatever. You could fill in the blank with whatever. Alcohol came first. So she went into the hospital in April, or about 2 weeks prior to April. And she was in the hospital for about 10 days, and she started getting better, So she came home, and we called hospice, had everything set up, and things were looking better. She was back on solid food, and she did have cirrhosis, and I knew that, but I figured, okay, there's dialysis and stuff like that. So I was optimistic and everything. And so I came in one morning. This is about early April 1st, 2nd, something like that, and she had passed away, and I just, I fell apart, I just fell apart, I didn't have anything to support me. Like, she was my support, my bottle was my support, smoking weed, doing meth. I was back to all of that, and I just lost it, I totally lost it. And I got in a big fight with her cousin, which was common for me to do at the time, and she asked me to leave, and she also said as I was leaving, I just shoved a bunch of stuff in my backpack. I wasn't going to stay there anyway, because how could I stay in the house that I shared with her? It was going to be impossible, so I packed whatever I could and took off. And last thing she said to me is, she said, "And you're not invited to her funeral service." And that crushed me, So I said a few choice words myself, and I took off. And so I was homeless and just drinking and crying. That's all I did for the next 10 days. And that was it. I wandered the streets, and I didn't have any money, so I was stealing bottles, and I just didn't give a care about if I got arrested, caught, who saw me, whatever. I was just drinking and crying, and I'm the type of drunk that, far from social, I like to find a corner of a park or an alley or behind a building, and I'll just sit there. And just wherever I wander next to, and wherever I fall down and pass out, that's where I sleep until I come to, and then I do it all over again. So that's what I did for 10 days. And the last place that I spent the night at was that park that we go to work out at, That's the last place I spent the night, because I was making my way to Fred Brown, like one liquor store at a time, And it took me 10 days to get there, and I didn't live that far. I just lived up on Western, So, but I knew in my mind, I knew the truth. I knew I couldn't live like that. I didn't want to die, and so I knew what I had to do. I was just in such grief that I just drank and cried for those 10 days, and I finally came to Fred Brown, and actually I I came to Fred Brown and I left for one night, and I went and I got a bottle, and I happened to be at Vaughn's up here where we go to, and this is a God shot, man. I happened to run into Walter, you know, and he was just there shopping, and he said, "What's up, man?" And I don't even think he recognized me. I looked like you can imagine. I'll just put it that way. I was filthy, you know, in every way. And so I ran into Walter, and Walter told me, he said, "Man, let me get you." You know, I forget the conversation really because I was so out of it. But he either offered me help or I said I need some help. And this is the truth of the program because I've lived it. Within 10 minutes, first of all, I met Walter and he made that phone call. And within 10 minutes, I couldn't even open my bottle, which I'm still angry about. But Chris drove up and picked me up. Chris was there in less than 10 minutes and picked me up and brought me back to Fred Brown. And I've been there since. And I went through a horrific detox. And detox, and I was, and this is amazing because when I came to Fred Brown the first time, those that know me and saw me then, I was shot out. I was near death, and Scott, my counselor, told me I looked worse this time, which I didn't think was humanly possible, but I achieved it, you know. And so that just gives you a picture of what I was like. The detox was terrible, and I literally hung on to my seat. Because I wanted to leave. My alcoholism was on me so bad, and the detox was so bad, even after going through 3 days of a medical detox, that it was all I could do just to really hold on to my seat physically and just tell myself I can't leave. And I played the tape through. You know, okay, I leave, I get drunk, then what? I'm back to being homeless. I got nowhere to go. No one wants me around. I got no money. I'm going to be stealing bottles. And if I pick up another charge, man, I'm screwed. I already had 3 charges hanging over my head. You know, warrants, 2 felonies, you know, I was like, man, so that was fear enough, that combination of things, of all of that to keep me at Fred Brown this time. And so that being said, like, you know, the passing of my girlfriend and it changed my perspective, my attitude, my life basically, because I don't have that crutch to go back to anymore, so I accepted that she passed, and there's nothing I can do about that. So what I've done this time is everything different, you know. I'm honest now. I'm putting all my effort into the work now. You know, more than just letters. I already have a sponsor. I call them every day or almost every day. We're already planning on getting into the steps. I plan on staying in RBH and then getting an extension, so I'm in the program a full year, as opposed to hanging on that phone call, you know, and bailing. So I'm really invested this time. Because everything changed, you know. So that's kind of my theme this time is honesty. You know, if you want something different, you got to do something different. And I learned all this the hard way at 51 years old. This is like my 7th rehab. You know, all failures, of course, because I'm here talking to you guys. So, you know, but it's a new start. You know, and I'm doing this for myself. I'm doing this to honor my family members that have died from alcoholism. My mom, my uncle. Both passed away from this disease at an early age. My girlfriend was only 54. She was like a couple years older than me, died of this disease as well. And so I'm doing it to honor them. For myself, I have 2 daughters out there. So I'm not as selfish this time. You know, I've tried to rid myself of that, and a lot of prayer, a lot of God involved, and less of me, you know, less me, more of everything else, you know. So I'll just end with this. The way I put it is God, sobriety, everything else. And if I stick to that, I got a good shot at this, you know. And with the love and support from the staff and my friends here, who I greatly rely on, thank you all. You know, I love you all. I appreciate you all. And that's what I got to say to you. So thank you.
All right, let's give Jeremy another round of applause. First, I have to say, great pick, Richard. Well done. It was so nice to see you up here, Jeremy. And, you know, I saw you when you first got here your second time around. And, yeah, you did look worse. Because I saw you the first time as well. But I think like, if there's miracles of this program and we get to witness it, that's my blessing, and I witness that with you. To see you come in so healthy, have friends, speak from your heart, and be fucking honest for a change, is amazing. And you know, I hope you know you can walk through anything, as long as you keep us close, keep your sobriety even closer, and just know, like, you are so worth it, and it will not turn you wrong. So I just thank you so much, and I'm so proud of you. Well done. Well done. All right, 10-minute break, kids.
Who do I give this to? I might keep it in the back burner.
All right, let's open the second half of the meeting with the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. All right, I'd like to introduce our main speaker that came to us all the way from down under. Come on up, Andrew. Let's give him a round of applause.
Thanks, guys and girls. It was Jeremy. Good on you, mate. I loved hearing that. I heard his applause. I thought, I hope I get a welcome like him when I walk up here. It's great to hear people getting it, you know. And if you are new, just listen tonight. Listen for similarities. There might be a lot of differences. There's enough similarities. If you're an alcoholic like me, you'll hear enough of your own story in mine, enough of your own thinking in mine, and you'll hear a solution that's for you in here. I didn't want to be in this room. I am Andrew, I'm an alcoholic, just in case I forgot to say that. I didn't want to be in this room. I came here and I sat down in these chairs in a room full of you guys, and I thought to myself, oh jeez, it's come to this. It's come to this. My life has really come to this. I've got to sit here and listen to all this crap. That's what I thought of your stories. Because I wasn't interested in your stories. I wasn't interested in other people. I was only really interested ever in myself, how I felt, how the world affected me, how the circumstances affected me, what happened to me. What you told me, I was just, yeah, whatever, let's get back to me. And so so the thought of sitting here for an hour, listening to other people's stories, and me not being able to say mine was horrible when I came in here, but I had nowhere else to go. I came in here in March 2018 for the first time. Now my sobriety date's February 17th, 2019, but I will get back to that story. thank you. But I came in March 2018, 24 hours earlier from the day I walked in these rooms. I'd been at the head of the psychiatric departments, a meeting with them at St Vincent's Hospital in Sydney, which is one of the biggest hospitals in Sydney. And they have a prison mental health unit there, so people get locked in there against their will. And I had to go and meet them twice a week. And I turned up the day before I came to my first AA meeting. I turned up 5 hours late, drunk, to meet the head of the department, and you know, all the evidence in the world on how I turned up, that I could have been locked away immediately. And he said to me, "You're due back here on Thursday. Never come back like this again, or you won't be leaving." And that was the first time ever that I was beaten. That was the first time ever I thought, I'm done. I can't run away anymore. You know, I started drinking. I didn't come in like this. I didn't get like that fast. It took 30 years. I started drinking. I was 46 years old on that day when I came in that day to that meeting, and I came in. I started drinking when I was a teenager. Started drinking. Most good Australians start drinking about 13. You know, I started drinking to blackout when I was about 15 and 16, and by 15, 16, it was hard to get alcohol. So one of my mates who had a car, on one occasion in high school, in the middle of the night, we reversed his car through the window of the bottle shop, stole all the bottles we could get from within the window, and then drove off. And we did whatever it took to get booze. And I'm going to say some terminology today that is Australian. You may not understand. I'll try and translate as I go along. If there's anything that you can't come up to me afterwards, right? Ask me anything, you know, and I'll do my best to translate my story into more American English from Australian English. But you know, it was always like that. I knew from the very beginning that when I drank, I thought I drank like everybody else. I just thought I had different results. I thought everyone else is as drunk as me. But they weren't. But in my eyes at the time as a teenager, I thought they were. And I just knew that I always end up in worse scenarios when I drank. When my mates drank, the next day when they were hungover, their mum or dad would make them mow the lawn with a hangover, so they'd throw up on the lawn. Me, I would be in hospital or in jail. On a regular basis, I was in hospital or jail after a night out drinking. And I was always drink driving. At 16 between 16 and 19, I got caught 4 times drink driving by the police. And at 19 years of age, in Australia, we have random breath testing stations. So they'll block off a lane of traffic and they can pull any car over, just wave you over, you've got to stop, and they breathalyze you. And I didn't think that they should be pulling me over because I was driving slow. You know, I thought, why, you know, and they waved me down, and I decided not to stop. I still went in the lane that they were trying to wave down, but I decided I wasn't going to stop. I was going to drive through the police barricade. And the police had to jump out of the way, and I almost hit one of them. And so shortly after that, I went to jail as a 19-year-old, as a teenager. And I still didn't think the alcohol was the problem. I was quite convinced that I'd been working too hard, I was stressed, and alcohol was my release. My whole drinking life, I didn't want alcohol to be the problem. I was desperate for it not to be that. You know, and the reason I had to go into the mental health unit in the last months of my drinking is because I'd been diagnosed for 25 years as bipolar with psychotic manic episodes. Now, I don't have any mental illness today, nothing diagnosed, but for 25 years my behaviour was so extreme that that's the only explanation that the medical community had for how I was the way I was and why I behaved the way I behaved. Why every time I drank, it was an issue. I was a public nuisance, and I was dangerous. And so I'd been diagnosed that for a long time, and I liked that badge. I liked that because that meant I could say, "Oh no, I'm not an alcoholic. I don't have a drinking problem. I'm a psychotic maniac." And you know, and if I was drinking at a bar, I had no problems telling somebody I just met that I was that, and I couldn't work out why people would run away. And you know, so I didn't want it to be the booze. I was desperate for it not to be the booze because it was the only thing my whole life that, for the first time when I drank, it's the only thing that started to feel kind of normal, or what I thought was normal anyway. My behaviour wasn't, but I thought I was normal. You know, when I drank, you know, I had this weird head that I had that was always racing and not happy and insecure and fearful and aggressive and just not right. When I drank, it's always calmed down, and I felt, oh, now I feel okay now. As soon as I have that first sip, it wasn't even a whole drink, just the first mouthful. This feels good. This is how I'm meant to be. Now I feel quite calm. Problem is, I just wouldn't have that first sip and feel calm. The anxiety and the madness would go for that first drink. Then I'd think, oh, might as well have another one and another one and another one. 10, 12, 15 drinks later, the anxiety and the madness would come back, and now it would have a new companion, the alcohol in my bloodstream. And that combination was just vile, and explained why I got into a lot of bad circumstances. So I drank, and when I my first job, I was 18 years old. I just finished high school. I got a job, and I remember a guy coming to work on a Tuesday with a hangover. He was 21, and I remember looking at him going, man, if I'm ever that bad, if I'm hungover on a Tuesday, well, that's when I'll quit booze, right? And that was my first time I set myself a benchmark for what things would have to get to for me to stop. Before I knew it, I was hungover 7 days a week, and I had forgotten that I'd made that promise 6 months earlier. It didn't take long to get there. It was so progressive. How I drank, the results I got was progressive. Everything kept getting worse and worse. I would drink. I promised myself I wouldn't drink 7 days a week. Within 2 years of drinking, starting my first drinking, I was drinking 7 days a week. I'd go, oh my God, this week I'm not going to. This week I'm not going to. I'd make promises to myself, to my family, to my closest members of my friends. I'm not going to drink this week. I'm not going to drink this week. And if you had to put me on a lie detector test, I would have passed it when I said that, because I meant it. I really meant it with everything, every fibre of my being. But then a couple of days would go past. Bit of anxiety would pick up. I'd feel this agitation. I was agitated. I didn't know why. No particular reason. And before I knew it, I'm drinking again. And before I know it, I'm in trouble again. And this is how it went. This is how it went. Setting new benchmarks. If I do this, I'll stop. If I do this, I'll stop. If I do that behaviour, I'll stop. And I always just went straight through all those moral barricades I set and those moral benchmarks I set where I wasn't going to drink again. Nothing. And then I became convinced that the reason I was so unstable as a human and so dangerous and destructive was because I just didn't have my external life how I wanted it. I didn't have the right girlfriend or the right job or the right car or the right house. So I thought, okay, once I get those things in line, I'll be good. Once I find that Goldilocks moment where everything's just right, I'm going to be fine. I won't need to drink then because I'll be fine. I'll be fixed. And occasionally in my life I got that. I still remember very clearly one day just sitting in my house going, I've got it. I've got the girl. I adore this girl. I've got this great car, great job, right house. And then I sat there for a few minutes. I was like, fuck, this is boring. And before I knew it, I was on bender after bender after bender, not going home, not going to work. And before I knew it, lost it all again. Back here. How'd I get here again? I swore I'd never come back to this place again, at the bottom, back at the bottom again. I became so used to picking myself up off the ground, dusting off the damage, and starting again. And it's bloody tiring, I tell you. It's bloody tiring. And by 24, I hadn't driven for a few years, and at 24 years of age, for whatever reason, I started driving again. And I ended up getting caught by the police for a fifth offence. I hadn't had one since I was 19. And then 3 days later, which was my birthday, they pulled me over, and I just decided I can't do this. I'm going to go to jail for a longer period. So I got in a high-speed chase. I drove for my life with multiple police cars after me. And the statute of limitations has passed for that offence in Australia because I've never been charged for that offence. Because I got away, but I crashed my car and I wrote my car off. And the next day I went to my job where I've been working for 6 years, resigned. I went and broke up with my girlfriend that night, and I bought a one-way ticket to the UK. And I thought, I'm going to leave before anything happens. And I told all my friends and family that I'd been offered this great job in England, of which I had no qualifications for, but I told them that anyway. That's why I was suddenly leaving. And I ended up having to go to court for that fifth DUI, and I told the judge that's why I was leaving Australia. I had this great job opportunity in England, and so they didn't put me in jail. They said, well, go and... They let me go because I had a good lawyer, obviously, and I went to the UK with no job, just to get out of Australia. I thought, I've got to get out of this country. I can't do it here. It's got to be the country that's wrong, not me. It's the country. The whole of Australia has got something wrong with it. And so I went to England, and same thing happened. Didn't matter where I went, I was always there. I always became convinced that when I had a fork in the road with decisions to make, somehow I seemed to make the wrong decision. When there was left or right, why did I always go down the wrong road? And then I realised, I was about a year sober, and I realised, I was never going to be able to choose the right road, because whichever one I chose, I was going to be the one on it. And so I couldn't get it right no matter where I went. It was a riddle that had no correct solution until I quit the booze. And I didn't want to quit the booze, as I said. I finally came back to Australia, and I worked really hard. It's amazing how hard you have to work just to have a regular, average life when you're drunk. Bloody hell. Most people don't have to work that hard, but boy, you have to work really hard just to get normal results. And and have to keep completely, constantly changing your story. What's happened? When I had injuries, or I had creative stories as to why I had 40 stitches in my hand. What did you do to get that? Some weird story, and always injuries and police, being at the police station. And eventually in the last year of my drinking, it went to another level. I went down really far. I was always a bad drunk, as you know from my story so far. But the last year of my drinking, when I was 45 till I turned 46, it went to a new level that I didn't know was possible. I had started my own business a couple of years earlier. I didn't make much money, but I made enough to not go to work very often, and my business partner did most of the work. And I made enough just to buy cheap bottles of wine. I was buying $4 bottles of wine, which is Australia. That's about $3 US. I'd buy 4 bottles of wine a day. 2, I'd had sleep with, as I heard your story with the vodka next to the bed. I used to have to sleep with wine next to my bed. I would drink a bottle of wine between going to bed at night and getting up in the morning. And I was constantly convulsing and shaking, and I started to throw up constantly in the middle of the night, what looked like coffee grind. And it was blood that was drying inside my intestines and inside my stomach. And the doctor said, "You haven't got long now." I said, "What for?" "Till you die. That doesn't heal forever. Soon you'll just bleed out." And the shakes, I couldn't have a shower. I'd wake up in the morning and I'd say, please have a shower before you have a drink. Have a shower before you have a drink. But I couldn't wash myself. I couldn't hold soap still enough to wash myself. I couldn't put shampoo in my hair. Couldn't do anything. And it was so bad. I developed hepatitis in my liver from alcohol. I had developed chronic anemia, so I had been rushed to hospital 3 times because my heart rate was so high, and it looked like I was having a heart attack because my body had stopped producing red blood cells. Something we don't talk about as much in these rooms is the physical side. We talk about the emotional, spiritual, the criminal, lots of things, but the physical damage was extraordinary. And I thought this was a one-way thing, right? I thought there's no going back. I got to this point where I'm shaking so much, I can't have a glass of water if I go out and meet somebody for breakfast. I can't even drink water. I can't hold cutlery to eat an egg. Couldn't even eat an egg I couldn't get it to my mouth. And I thought, this is it. I've done irreversible damage to my nervous system. What's the point? So when I got to that point and I looked at my life, every day I went to bed hoping the next day something would be different, or maybe I'll die in my sleep. And I'd wake up and the weight of disappointment I'd have for myself, the weight of shame I'd have for myself, that weight was too hard to bear sober. So the only thing I would do was have another drink. Because when I had another drink, I could kind of play it down that my life was a mess, that I'd lost everything. I became so convinced that every good thing that could happen to a human being in their lifetime had already happened to me. I'd already had lots of things in my hands that had slipped through my fingers, or I destroyed them. And so I became convinced there's no point for me anymore. There's no reason to quit drinking. Why would I stop now? It's already gone. Everything good's gone. And so it was very difficult when I realized that I was going to have to quit or die, or be locked up against my will indefinitely in a mental ward. And they're not easy to get out of. We've seen One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. They're not easy to get out of. Once you're in there, and so I was convinced that it was all over for me. My whole story was told. My life story was told, and all I was doing was going through the motions till I died. And the best I could hope for was not run out of money to drink. If I ran out of money to drink, I thought that's a torture worse than hell, because the thought of not drinking, and that place we many of us know, where you can't drink and you can't not drink, that bloody horrible place, and where there is no answer, there's no other option in our mind. There's no other way, and I found myself in that place, but also knowing there's no point. What's the point? What's the world want from me anymore? I've got nothing to offer the world. I've got nothing to offer myself. And but finally, I had my business, and I hadn't had a meeting for months. And we had a big client who decided they want to have a meeting with us on a Monday, and it was the previous Thursday. And I decided I better shape up before I go to this meeting, because at that stage I was swollen, my eyes looked like a puffer fish, and the bloodshot. And I thought I better shape up a bit before I go to this meeting. So I decided to taper down my drinking because I knew I couldn't stop, or I was shaking uncontrollably. So on the Thursday, I decided to taper down. I'd been drinking 20 to 30 drinks a day at this stage as a standard. That was a standard minimum. You know, on a big day it was more, but 20 to 30 drinks every day just to stay quite what I thought was normal. And so I tapered down to about 15 beers on the Friday, then 10 beers on the Saturday, 6 or 8 beers on the Sunday, and I was shaking uncontrollably. And I tossed and turned all on the Sunday night. Monday morning I got up feeling okay. I thought I'd put a suit on, hadn't worn a suit for a while, and off I went to this meeting. And on the way to the meeting, in the middle of peak hour traffic in Sydney, I had a seizure and collapsed in the street, smashed my head, burst an artery inside my head and inside my skull, and lost over a litre, or a lot of blood, enough that it was a life-threatening blood loss, and they couldn't stop the bleeding. And so I was rushed to hospital, and they cut off my clothes with scissors, cut into my skull, and stitched the artery back together. They shaved the back of my head, not the front, so it looked ridiculous. But and I left. 5 days later, they let me out of hospital, and I went straight to the pub. I needed a drink, and then I realised that I'd had the Goldilocks moments in my life where everything was just right. I'd had all the catastrophes where any normal person would quit drinking and never do it again, you know. And I'd had everything external that could happen, good or bad, and it hadn't been enough. And that's when I realised there's no set of external circumstances that exist in this universe that I won't drink over. There's none. And so the level of hopelessness I felt. And so that's why I had to go twice a week to meet them at that hospital. And when I came to AA for the first time, I sat here and I thought, well, I've got nowhere else to go. I've got to come back every day. For the first time in my life, I actually wanted to live, and I wanted to be free. Before that, I didn't give a shit. And so I came in these rooms, and I slowly heard what I had to hear. He gave me a little big book, and I read that, and I got to chapter 2, and I read those words, 4 words, the greatest words at that time in my life that I'd ever read, called "There is a solution." And I read that, and I thought, my God, and something inside me went, this might be for me too. Maybe this is for me. I didn't think it was. I thought it was for you guys, but none of you are like me. I thought I was different. And I thought I was doomed. And I read those words, there is a solution. And I actually thought for the first time ever, maybe it is for me. And it has been for me. Now, I didn't get sober from that moment. I got 11 months sobriety up. I came in willing to do anything. I'll do anything. And then you showed me the steps. And I went, no, I'm not doing that. So, you know, it's quite amazing how we come in so desperate to do anything, but the one thing we're told to do, we don't want to do. Because I had all this courage and bravado for being loud and obnoxious, and I thought I had courage and I was confident, but I didn't have the kind of courage it took to look at myself like they ask, to be honest, as I heard mentioned earlier. I didn't have that courage. And so every time I got to 11 months sober, I just went to lots of, I went at least 10 meetings a week. And I didn't, my business partner had banned me from being involved in the business. And all I was allowed to do was go to meetings, and I live near the ocean, I'd swim in the ocean, go to meetings, that's it. So I didn't think I needed to do the steps because my life transformed unbelievably. In 6 weeks, my liver had lost the hepatitis, my red blood cell count was operating again. In 6 weeks, I started to feel great. And then as the months went on, people would say to me, oh, I wish you were slow recovery. And I'd think, that's great, I like that idea, because that means I can take 20 years to do the steps. And the way I do things, I'll wait till it's 19 years and 11 months, and then I'll start them. So I thought, and then I won't have to make amends to a lot of people because they'll mainly be dead. And so I thought, this is great, this slow recovery business. I didn't realise my life depended on getting through it though. I didn't realise that I was just a sitting duck. I had alcohol out of my bloodstream and out of my life, but I was actually just a sitting duck waiting for life to happen to me again, where I didn't have any tools to handle life on life's terms. And it happened, I got well. People started offering me job opportunities where I'd been unemployable. I had a business opportunity to go into business with somebody. I got a girlfriend, couldn't believe it. I didn't think I was ever going to be able to have a girlfriend again. And everything was going great. I thought these are the promises that the promises of recovery, the gifts of recovery are coming my way. Look what I've done, look what I've done. That's how I still thought it was about me. I still thought I'd done it because I'd shown up. And that's part I am responsible. I am responsible for using my feet to get into a meeting every day that I can and I'm responsible for that part. The rest I haven't done. It's been given to me, I know that for a fact. But I came in, I got a girlfriend, I got a business opportunity, and things were going great. I was telling everybody how great life was, and then suddenly I lost the girlfriend, lost the business opportunity, and I still felt great because I thought, that's right, I don't care, good things will happen. And then one day I wasn't feeling so great, and I picked up instantly when I realised what I'd just lost in the girl and the business. I realised what I'd just lost, and I picked up immediately. There was no hesitation whatsoever. And I went on a 2.5-week bender where I still went to meetings. I was falling over chairs in meetings. I was sleeping on the floor in meetings. I was drunk every day at the meetings, blind drunk every day at meetings. But I kept going because I knew what I'd lost was so much I'd never had before. I had a sense of freedom, of not just freedom physically, but freedom of my spirit and my mind that I'd never known was possible before that. And I just wanted it back somehow. I didn't know if I'd ever get it back, but geez, I wanted it back. Because I'd never been that happy my whole life as I was when I got that first 11 months up here. And I didn't know if I'd ever get day one again. It was so hard to get that first day. And we'd had a Christmas party a few months earlier for my AA home group. And a young girl who was 2 months sober had said to me, I said, what are you doing for Christmas this year? And she said to me, for the Christmas this year, I'm doing my step 4 as my gift to me for Christmas. I thought, that's an interesting concept. And she said, and for New Year's, I'm doing my step 5 as my New Year's present to myself. And I saw the steps as homework, and I hated homework. And so suddenly I saw them the way she saw them. And 4 weeks after that was when I relapsed. When I came back for that relapse, I finally got some traction after desperately trying to get one day again. And I realised that I'm hopeless at finishing stuff. My whole life I'm not very good at finishing things. I joined the gym, I hardly ever go. I was even watching television series, I never seem to watch the whole lot. I'm not good at finishing things. And I said to my mum and dad, I said, I don't care if I don't finish another thing in my entire life, I'm going to finish those bloody steps. And I set out with that attitude. I knew I was desperate beyond belief. And I knew myself well enough to know that if that desperation faded, I may never get it done. And if I didn't get it done, well, for the rest of my life, am I going to get a couple of years where everything's going well and then something goes wrong and I drink again? Is that my whole life story going to be the same? Always just a sitting duck, waiting for the right externals to pull me down, where I can't handle it and I have to drink again. And so I worked through it. My sponsor, fortunately, knew enough about me to know that we simplified it down to a one-step program. Because I looked at step 4 and 5, I didn't want to do those. I certainly didn't want to do 8 and 9. And so I kept looking at those steps. How can I do step 1 when I'm terrified of those? And so he said, let's just do one step at a time. And once we get to the end of every step, you'll decide whether you want to do the next one. But I don't want you looking ahead. So that's how I did it, one step at a time, as steps, funnily enough, are designed. And I got through. And I knew I didn't have the courage. I suddenly saw myself for the coward that I had been my whole life, that I was always running away. When things got hard, I drank myself stupid. I got in fights. I'd gamble, or I'd run away, or I'd cause damage. I just realised that I didn't have the courage it took to do those steps, to look at myself. And so I prayed every time we said that serenity prayer, I really emphasised the courage part. And I knew that somehow, because I've been so happy in this program before, that everything else you said would happen, would work. And the courage was granted to me. Every time I got to the next step, I had something inside me that was strong enough to go, I can do the next step. I can do it. And I worked my way through those steps. And it was miraculous. That's the only way I can describe it. The steps are a way for me. They say that they're a path for a faith that works. Now, I don't know if everybody here has problems with God or has different religions. In my home group, I've got Jews, Muslims, atheists, me. We've got everybody. And we've all been able to find a path to a faith that works. Because, I don't want to be that vulnerable guy that falls apart. When the world falls apart, I fall apart with it. I don't want to be that guy, because that's how I lived my whole life. In these rooms, I've been able to find, and I've gone through, since I got sober in 2019, I've been able to go through things that were far worse than what I picked up over before, and somehow hold it together. And not somehow, I say it like it's a great mystery. I've done the work. I try and put those steps into all aspects of my life. And because of that, I'm allowed to have a new experience, one that I couldn't conjure up myself before, a way of living that I was not capable of before. I get to show up in meaningful ways for the people that care about me. I get to show up for my mum. Mum's in a wheelchair now most of the time. She wasn't like that most of her life. She's got a neurological degenerative disease. I've been able to show up for her at the time in her life when she needs me. It chokes me up a bit. I couldn't show up before. I didn't show up for anybody unless there was something in it for me. I've been able to show up in ways that I couldn't before. If you are new, keep coming back. You'll work it out as you go along. If you're struggling with the God concept, that's cool. That's cool. Just do the stuff anyway. You'll work out your own concept of what God can mean in your life. And as they say, even if it's just this group of drunks, it's a group of drunks for now. That can be enough to get you started. That's enough to get a foot in the door. You'll change. What you think now doesn't have to be what you think in a year or 2 years or 5 years. It keeps evolving and changing, and that's cool as well. That's what's on offer for everybody. Get a new chance at a new life in here. One of my good old mates in Sydney, he always says, when you come in here, you don't get your old life back with a few things fixed because you can't polish a turd. He said, you get a new life. You get a new life. I love that. Can't polish a turd. For anybody who doesn't know what that means, I hope so. Anyway, I'll translate afterwards. So how long do I have left, timekeeper? How's the time going? 5 minutes. Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, look. It's been an amazing journey. When I after at 19 years of age, people always say, "Oh, what was your rock bottom? What was your rock bottom?" Other than what got me into these rooms, which was the threat of being locked up indefinitely. There was so many. I couldn't put a finger of it. Going to jail should have. There's so many things that should have been a rock bottom. Losing my marriage. My wife and I was married when I was in my 20s, divorced by 30. I sold an apartment that I owned and almost had no mortgage left, and I was meant to put the money into a new apartment, but instead I just quit my job and just went on a 10-month bender till I ran out of money. And I was banned from everywhere almost in Sydney. At some stage or another, I've been banned from every public drinking place in Sydney. Friends laughing at back there. And some for a month, some for just a weekend, some for life. I've never asked the ones where I was banned for life what I did, because I've just assumed whatever it is, I don't want to hear it. And that's when I was drinking anyway. And at one stage, in the last year of my drinking, I was even banned from Woolworths. So now, Woolworths is a national grocery chain in Australia. It's the biggest one. It's a multi-billion-dollar grocery chain. I was formally banned by the police from ever going there again, and I had a letter, legal letter to say that, and it was, in fact, actually, it was right around this time. And tonight in Australia, there's a big rugby match on called State of Origin, where one state versus another. It's the biggest deal of the year every year. It was on that night that I was out drinking that I got banned from Woolworths, and for drunk and disorderly, they couldn't get me to leave. They had to call the police. Once again, the police. I wrote an amends. When you go through this process, right, we get to make amends to everybody that we've harmed. But it's really important that you do these things with a sponsor, because even when we come in, just because we get sober doesn't mean we're suddenly the expert on what's good or bad. If I couldn't work out after 30 years that alcohol was the problem, despite all the evidence, well, I'm not suddenly the expert on what's right or wrong in my own brain. I'm not the doctor. I'm still the patient. And so I wrote an amends. My sponsor got me to write down 3 lines of amends to each person I'd harmed. And I wrote one down for the police. And it wasn't for any particular police officer. It was just for the police in general. And he got me to read out my amends. And I read that one out, and he looked at me with this weird look on his face. He said, "And what do you plan on doing with that?" I said, "Well, I was thinking I could tour the country, go into police stations and just read it out. Read it out." And he said, no, just leave them alone. Never talk to the police again. Your amends to the police is that you'll just leave them alone. Which is a much better option, right, than traveling the country. So that's why it's important to have a sponsor, because our brains don't come back. We don't have great ideas. We don't cause more damage, although I might have got arrested in that situation. But we don't cause more damage, but we don't still have all the greatest ideas on what's right or wrong for us. I've gotten to heal. I've gotten to get a new life. And if you had told me if I had have got what I came in here for, all the things I thought I wanted back, I still wanted the externals back when I came in. I still thought the externals somehow will be the thing that'll fix the internal, what's going wrong with me. And that's why I think I needed that relapse, because I had to come back and do the steps to realise there's nothing external that's ever going to fix me. If I can fix the internals, well, I've got a good chance at a good life. I have a good life today. I've got a really good life today. Life happens on life's terms, but I'm able to handle it in a way that I couldn't before. I'm able to be calm. I'm able to be kind. When my relationship broke down a few years ago, I was able to listen to my ex. I was able to listen to her. I prayed for kindness. I prayed for compassion. I prayed to listen with kindness and compassion. Listen more than you speak. Please, God, help me do these things. We're very close friends today because of that. All my other exes, when it broke up, oh my God, you know, it was vile. I had a unusual history with fire when I'd break up with somebody. You know, on one occasion I used to set on bins on fire, and all the public bins on fire. The metal ones, not the plastic ones. I'm not a complete animal. That's how, when I was emotionally scarred or hurting, I had to inflict pain on others or other things for me to try and somehow, in my warped mind in an emotional turmoil, somehow feel equilibrium, balance. And I did that by really launching myself out in bad ways. Oh, look, you know, this is... I never know what I'm going to say if I'm asked to share. I don't know how I'm going to speak for. I had a few notes here, pretty much said everything. So, look, if you keep coming back to these rooms, just for now, put aside whatever you think. Just put aside any prejudice. I had to. It's worked. It's a miracle. It's the only way to explain it. You know, people who drink like me don't get a second chance in life. Generally, we just don't. The evidence is here. If you come here long enough, you say goodbye. You'll bury a lot of people. When you come here long enough, it's a common and recurring theme. But you also see a lot of miraculous recoveries of life. People that come back from situations they shouldn't have, and you'll look at people and you go, you know, I see it tonight. I heard it tonight. I hear it every day that I come to these rooms. I come to these rooms as often as I can. I put my hand up anytime I'm asked for service in this area, in an area that's AA based. I always say yes, whether I feel like doing it or not. Because my sponsor said to me, you never know when that day might be the day that's the day you might have drunk, and this is the thing that stops you. So I always say yes to any AA-based request. And I know some of those times I've not wanted to do things, but I've always been led in incredible ways. I've had some extreme adventures from saying yes to AA-based stuff that I didn't want to do. It's never let me down. The promises have all come true in my life. You know, I've got that new hope. I've got a new happiness. I've got a new freedom. I made peace with my past. I didn't think I ever could. I thought when I came in here, the only way I could get a new life is if I kind of joined a witness protection program, went to some little country town with a new name and a new identity, and then could start again, and no one would know my past, right? I thought that would be the case. And but it's not. I've been able to change my relationship with my past so much so that what I thought was my greatest weakness, I'd still never be able to be a politician, right? Too much dirt. But I'll still never be able to be one. Not that I want to be. But I literally have changed my relationship with my past so much that what I thought was my greatest liability, that extreme shame and disappointment I felt with my whole life, has turned into something that I'm not proud of everything I've ever done. And I wish sometimes some of the things I did to hurt other people, I wish I didn't hurt them in those ways. But I've been able to make peace with those things. I've been able to change my relationship so much that my past has become an asset in the new life. It's been a way to help others. And I know I have, if all of you guys sitting here right now were doctors and psychologists and psychiatrists and pharmaceutical companies that are trying to help alcoholics, and all of you were in that group, I know I don't have as much chance of getting sober as I do with all of you guys being drunks and addicts. You're the ones that saved my life. You're the only ones with the power to do that. And I know that because I've tried all the others. You know, I've been on multiple medications. They always try to do different things. And I'll finish on this actually. When after 4 months of coming in the first time, when I had to go twice a week to the psychologist at the big mental hospital, and the reason I had to go is because I was on a list called the critical care team, under the critical care team, right? In Sydney, they've got a list of people's names on this list that's kept by one of the hospitals, and a doctor and a police officer drive around in a car all day, randomly visiting people's houses that are on this list. Because you haven't committed a crime yet that could put you away for life, but they'll randomly turn up to your house because they know that you're the character that might do it. So they come around to your house randomly, they can knock on the door at 2 o'clock in the morning to make sure you haven't killed somebody else or yourself. And I was on that list, so I knew that I couldn't not turn up to the hospital or it's guaranteed straight away arrest. And so after 4 months of coming to AA for the first time ever, feeling my life was changed, and going to that same doctor that saw me those 4 months earlier, he called me for a special meeting, and I thought, oh no, they're going to lock me up. They are for sure. I went in there and he said to me, you've been diagnosed, this is your diagnosis, 25 years of just all these incidents, this diagnosis, bipolar, psychotic, manic. What do you think about this? And I didn't want to say it too loud because I thought he might think I was crazy, because that's the first sign of being crazy, right? You don't know you are. And I leaned across to him and I whispered, I don't think there's anything wrong with me. And he looked at me and went, no, we agree. We don't think there's anything wrong with you. You're a chronic alcoholic. you don't have mental illness. I can't promise you, but I'm quite certain if you never drink again, you may never experience the symptoms again that had you with this diagnosis. And I walked to that room, and instead of feeling attached to that diagnosis for most of my life, because that was a good excuse to not quit drinking, I was totally free. Now look, I don't say that lightly, because serious mental illness exists on a very regular basis, especially when it comes to these rooms. So not everyone's going to have that experience, but for me that was my experience. And if I never drink again, I know I'm likely to never have those symptoms again. I'm never to look, and that was the true first time ever I basically broke completely free of the chains of the past of who I'd been. Anyway, thanks for having me, guys.
All right, let's give Andrew another round of applause. That was amazing. Thank you. All right, before we give out chips tonight, I just want to thank everyone for the 7th tradition. And Walter, thank you for collecting the basket. We took in $47, which brings us to $104. So we're in pizza range. I'm not going to guarantee it, but we're in pizza range. Don't forget, we're doing birthdays on the 2nd. I'm out of here next week. Red, come on up. Let's do some celebrating.
What's up, guys? My name is Michael. I'm an alcoholic addict. I'm also your chip chick for this meeting.
Nice box.
Thank you. It's blue. Here at Fred Brown Recovery Services, we like to celebrate various lengths of sobriety with milestones. That just totally threw me off. With anyone with with anyone with 29 days or less, like to come up and get a chip and a hug.
We're officially a drug addict. Welcome to Matt. Rick. Alcoholic.
Rick.
Jose addict.
Are you under 30?
Huh? Yeah, and Michael, alcoholic.
Michael.
Anyone with 30 days.
Michael, alcoholic.
Michael. Anyone else with 30 days? What about 60 days?
Jeremy, alcoholic.
Felipe.
What about 90 days? Rome. How about 6 months? What about 9 months?
Oh, baby.
We also, what about 18 months? Anyone? Wine or chip? We also celebrate birthdays at this meeting, but it happens at the end of every month, so please get with the meeting secretary at the end of the meeting if you want your birthday celebrated here. With anyone with a year or more, please raise your hand. Just goes to show that this program does work. Thank you for letting me be of service.
All right, thanks, Michael. Unfortunately, we are out of time, so no opportunity for sharing. But Nancy's available, so if you don't hit her up tonight and you need to share, I'm just teasing. We always do that at our meeting. We're like, what are the regulars? Ramon's right here too. He'll be happy to listen to you. All right, just send you a text. Where do you get your phone? Okay, Sam, come on up and read a vision for you, please.
Samuel Attic. How to use this thing. All right, a vision for you. Our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask him in your morning meditation that you can do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come. If you own house is in order, but obviously you cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with him is right, and great events will come to pass. For you and countless others, this is the great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then.
All right, thanks, Sam. Thank you guys all for a wonderful meeting. Thank you, Jeremy, for your 10. Thanks again, Andrew, for your story. Really appreciated that. Don't forget, clear away the wreckage of your presence. I see a lot of trash. And speaking of trash, I need a couple of people to help do trash. Thank you, Richard. Thank you. All right, let's link up. No, not today.
Come on in, guys. Oh shit, I'm on camera.
They're not filming us. You're not that special. Link up. All right. After a moment of silence for the alcoholic and addict who's still suffering, will Andrew please lead us out in the prayer of his choice?
All right, who's large and in charge?
God. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom